also need to start looking at Apex jobs if this was an asynchronous process, or you might need to start looking at your flow interviews to see what went wrong potentially. Eventually, you can figure out what broke and you fix it. That's part of your job. You've been doing it this whole time. But what's wrong with this approach? Anyone just off the top of their head, like what sucks about this?
It's defensive.
It's defensive. Yeah, you're on your back foot. Do you have something? Same thing. Time, right? Yeah, it takes a lot of time. So you're caught on the back foot. It's taken a lot of time. And you're more of an archaeologist at this point. You're trying to figure out what happened. You're piecing together information. Some of it is in good shape. Some of it's in bad shape. It's hard to figure out what's going on. And some of the reasons I think for that is, to y'all's point, when you're going through this process, you don't have a timeline of events. You have to reconstruct it yourself to figure out what happened. So you rely on the user to tell you that I clicked the button around 3:30. You might go and query records in Salesforce looking for created date, last modified date, or system mod stamps. And then you have to start cross-referencing. You cross-reference what happened in your Apex jobs with some last modified dates on S-object records, et cetera, et cetera. You have to piece and glue all that together. And once you do that, you have to figure out where the error came from. So like I said earlier, you have to recreate the issue in production to generate some logs. Just like in this screenshot, you might get 10, 15 logs. You don't care about all of them. So now you have to spend your time reading through all these logs that may or may not be relevant to you. It's a very tedious process. And you might also waste some time gathering information you don't need. You might be pinging your team members to see if they deployed anything or if anything recently changed. In the meantime, your stakeholder is asking, what's taking so long? They need to close that deal today. Turns out the button they were clicking was sending a quote for approval or closing the opportunity. Then they start asking more questions. They start wondering, when did this start happening? When did this button stop working? And how many records are affected? And at this point, you don't know, right? It's embarrassing, trust starts eroding, and you're caught on your back foot. You're playing defense. So once you figure out the issue and resolve the issue, how are you going to prevent this from happening again? How do you know that your org is a better state? And when you get the next production issue, how are you going to change how you react to that? I think one way to do that is with observability. The textbook kind of definition for observability is the ability to determine a system's internal state by examining the data points it produces. When I read that, I don't really know what that means. I like this analogy of thinking about your car's dashboard. When you're driving and looking at your car's dashboard, you don't see the combustion process, you don't see oil circulating, you don't see pistons firing or gears changing. That's the internal state of your system, of your car. But you can kind of infer that by looking at the check engine light, the tire pressure indicators, the oil lights to see if those are on. But some folks don't call this observability, they call this monitoring. Observability is a little bit different because instead of getting those key indicators, it helps you ask some more nuanced questions. Like, when did the temperature start trending upwards? Under what load conditions was the car in when this started happening? Was the RPM fluctuating? Was the coolant pressure dropping? And how was fuel efficiency degrading? Those types of questions. So when we start thinking about our Salesforce system again and observability, I think it's trying to answer these three questions. What happened, why it happened, and what was affected. And if we can answer those questions, I think we have an observable system. So one way to build that observable system is through logging. The problem is that logging in Salesforce isn't very easy. With Apex, for example, if we want to set trace flags, they're only going to last a maximum of 24 hours. I don't know about you, I'm not going to log into my org every day and set a trace flag on the integration user. Even if I did, those debug logs are going to get truncated once they surpass 20 megabytes, and they're going to be automatically purged. Or folks are going to delete logs to make room for their own logs. So it's not a reliable, consistent way to be able to see what happened in your org. Some of us build with flows, an awesome tool, but it can't natively produce logs at all. There's simply no way you can do it. There's some, not external objects, but there's some data that flows can produce that you can look at, but there's no way for you to create your own custom log or your own custom debug log the way you can with Apex. And one last automation type that we have are Lightning Web Components. There you can do a console.log, but the problem is the Lightning Web Component's running on the client, which means when you log, you're logging into the user's browser. That's not going to do you any good. You have to spend time with the user to go open up Chrome inspector and see what logged to their browser. And that's not an effective way to get logs either because it's not on your server. So how do we, if there was a solution out there, what would it look like? With Apex, we would need something that kind of does a continuous trace. I don't need to log in every day and set a trace flags. And I should be able to log only what I care about. I don't care about every single button a user clicks, I don't care about all the processes that fire when a user clicks a button. I only might care about kind of niche things within that process. I want to log what matters. With flows, I want to literally just be able to produce debug logs. Of course, I want everything else that I'm able to get with Apex as well, but at least give me that bare minimum. And with Lightning Web Components, I want a way to be able to see those logs myself without interacting with the user and asking them to tell me what's in their console.logs. But more than that, I want a unified experience. I don't want one way to log for Apex, one way to log for Flow, one way to log for Lightning Web, have some data here, have some data here, and try to map it all out because I'm stuck in the same spot. So what I want is a unified approach that I know all my logs can go into one spot. So the question is, do you build that yourself or do you buy something? And I think the answer for us today is to go open source with Nebula Logger. I regret putting this animation on, I didn't even know it was there. Okay, so Nebula Logger is pretty straightforward to deal with, and it's pretty easy to get it up and running. The very first thing you need to do is install it in your org. Now there's two options. You can either go with an unlocked package, and with that, there's some advantages, like there's no namespace, so if you want to change the code yourself, you can. As the open source team develops new features and pushes them, you can pull from that and get those features instantly in your org. And there's also some plugins that I'll talk about later that you can actually use within your code base. These are like things like Slack plugins or big object plugins in case you want to notify different channels or store your logs differently. Managed packages, these follow a release cycle, so they only update this 3 times a year during spring, summer, and winter. And it is namespace, so you won't be able to see their code, and that might be a good thing for you, it might be a bad thing for you. Ultimately, the code is on GitHub, so you can always look at it. So let's say you go ahead and install it. That's step 1, done. Step 2 is to break your org. And that is when I'm going to stop with these slides, and let's go and try to break an org together. Okay. Any questions so far before I jump into the demo? We're rocking and rolling. Okay.
Is this more of an admin kind of a thing? Or is this
It's both, baby. It's both. If you're an admin that builds with flows, you can take advantage of this. If you're a developer that builds with Apex, you can take advantage of this too.
I am enjoying all the frogs.
You're enjoying the frogs? That's my boy Bufo, so I'm glad you're enjoying it. If you don't like... Yes.
Managed package.
Yes.
I get the advantage of like continuous updates and releases. How often does it get updated? Like, do you know how active the development is?
Great question. I know it's active because if you look at, like we can just go, we can just check. 8 hours ago. And then you can look at all the commits against main. So February 23rd, they pushed to main, August 18th, so a little bit of gap there. July, well, it kind of depends. I don't think it's necessarily like consistent. Not within the unlocked package version, but they do put the managed package in release cycles.
Do you know what the release cycle is for the managed package? It's aligned with...
It's like summer, spring, winter. Yeah, I don't know how closely it aligns, but I know it's in those 3 triannual, not triannual, but 3 times a year cadence. Thanks for asking. Any questions on the call? Yeah.
If my org is running on Omni Studio, will I be still able to get logs from it?
I'm going to admit something to you. I don't really know Omni Studio all that well, so I'm not the right person to ask. But I think once we go into the demo, maybe it'll be more clear. But otherwise, I can help you figure it out afterwards. You got me there. Any questions online?
We are good so far.
All right, cool. Thanks, Sally.
Can you repeat the last question, please?
Yeah, the last question was whether you can leverage Nebula Logger within Omni Studio. And I said, I don't know. Okay.
I think so, because I think the last time we did this and we talked about Omni Studio at the Frisco Architect group, essentially it is a declarative way of accessing like an Apex framework behind the scene. So I'm assuming then, therefore, you can.
Cool. Well, thanks for that. All right, so I have Nebula Logger installed. As soon as you do, you get this awesome app that they have with a dashboard and everything. But of course, there's no logs in this org yet, so there's nothing to see in the dashboard. I'll just poke around and show you guys a couple other things real quick before I start breaking stuff. Another key kind of tab that we're going to be working off is this logs tab. Here, you'll be able to see all the logs that are generated by Nebula Logger, whether they come from Apex, Flow, or Lightning Web Components. They'll all be in one spot. So it's part of that unification that I was talking about earlier. Okay, so let me, before I dig into any code, let's just try to break something first. So I'm going to go to account. I already have some automation on account. Yeah, go for it. I have loaded it, and I gave myself a permission set. Called like, and that permission set's just to let me see this log page. No, thanks for asking. I should have called that out. Appreciate it.
Saman, do you mind like repeating the questions asked in the room, because we hear your answer but not the question?
Yes, thank you, Sally. So the question was, did I need to do any additional configuration steps after I installed the package? The answer was yes. I gave myself a permission set, the Nebula Logger admin permission set, which allowed me to kind of see these logs. All right, so I'm going to hop on over back to account. I don't know why I closed that tab. And I'm going to create a new account record. And I'm just going to name it Manny's whatever, Tex-Mex. And I'm going to save that account. And there's one piece of functionality I want to call out, and that is this credit worthiness score. So we already have some automation in the org that fires on account creation. When they enter in the name of an account, let's imagine there's some process that goes and understands the credit worthiness of this company that we're trying to work with. Meaning, are they defaulting on payments, et cetera, et cetera. So just like I did right now, some sort of lead user or pre-sales user would go ahead and start creating these account records. That one worked fine. This is kind of the status quo of the org. Now, if I go ahead and go to create another account, this time I'm working with Simon Corp, and Simon Corp is a multi kind of state organization, and they have a base out of Texas. So I'm going to name it that, hit save, and I should see the same credit worthiness populate. Okay, it didn't populate, that's fine. Maybe it's an asynchronous process. Let me reload. Still not showing up. Still not showing up. Do we have a bug? PagerDuty going off? Yeah, PagerDuty's going off, right? So typically what we would do at this point, if this was your org and this was your production org, you'd sync up with the user, understand that they try to create this new account and they're not seeing the credit worthiness score, and they said, oh, it was working because on Manny's Tex-Mex it was working. What's going on? So one of the first things I would do probably is familiarize myself with the code if I'm not familiar with it already. So let's pop open the code for this org. On account, I have a trigger. It fires after insert. Looks like it calls this account trigger handler. Okay, cool. Let's see what's in here. There is a run method. I'm checking for the after insert context. I call handle after insert. Oh, what's this? A account credit score queuable? That looks suspicious. Maybe what I need is there. Let's see, we pass in some accounts. Oh, and we set the credit score, which is the same field here, this credit worthiness score. So something's going wrong. So what we would typically do potentially is enable some logs, generate that, see what's going on. Since this is a queuable job, I know I can check the async Apex job to potentially see what's going on. So let me go do that, go to Apex jobs and see if that failed. Oh, it did. Okay, cool. 641, yeah, 643, the time adds up. Looks like it's that same account, credit score queuable. Okay, so I'm crazy. And what does the error say? It says, okay, it handled an exception, field custom validation exception, Simon Corp and its subsidiaries can't have credit score. Oh, okay. So then, I would go open up the account validation rules. I will validate, yeah, there is a validation rule that says if the account's name contains Simon Corp, they can't have a credit score. So I have some sort of bug in this code. That's kind of what the status quo looks like. So I want to show you how the experience will be a little bit different when you're using something like Nebula Logger. So with Nebula Logger, I'll still, of course, need to update the accounts, but I have the opportunity to log them in a more unified way versus doing something like a system debug. So because no one wants to see me typing, I'm just going to replace this code, format that. So the only thing I changed is I added a try catch block, and I'm now asking Nebula Logger via this logger class to create a new exception log for me. I'm just going to put a small message in here. That's just for me. I'm going to say error updating accounts with credit score. I'm going to pass that exception back. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to deploy this to my org. Cool. And now I'm going to try to recreate the issue one more time. I'm going to go in Simon Corp, call it Nevada. And of course, I didn't actually fix the bug, right? I just added an exception block for the bug. So let's see what happens. Of course, this is not going to work, which is fine. So I'm going to open up the logs and see if I see an entry there. I do. OK. So that is 6:45 p.m., which is right now. Perfect. That's the right log. Let me open that up and see what you're able to see with Nebula Logger. And this is really the cool part, is that with literally just one line of code, all I had to do was pass in a custom message and pass in what went wrong, and Nebula Logger takes care of the rest. It was able to, via a platform event, go ahead and create a log record, process it, and manifest it ultimately into this custom object, while also allowing me to kind of roll back this queuable and not cause any other issues. So let me open up this log and see what it created for us. We see some log entries. Let me hop on over to the details first. So I see some information that might be relevant to me, the start time, transaction ID. I get to see who the log was created for. You can customize things like priority, et cetera, et cetera. I'll just kind of let you guys see what's all on here. Some of it's relevant, some of it might not be for my analysis here. But some of the meat of what we're looking for is here in the log entries. If I go to this error log, this is the cool part. So I will see the exact error message that I asked it to print out. I see the stack trace. It even shows me the original source metadata, so I see exactly the snippet of code that caused the issue. And I see a whole lot more information about what happened. So I see my exception message, the exception type, the stack trace, the source metadata, and everything I'd possibly want to see. What's cool is, as part of this logging, it also helps you understand your governor limits during the transaction. So within the transaction limits tab, if I switch over there, I can see how my Apex transaction was doing as a whole. So I know from that code, I was issuing a SQL query, I was issuing a DML, and that really is it for this transaction. And I can see that same information here. I see that one DML, I see the one SQL query, and the one row that's returned. So that's pretty cool. You can kind of get a holistic look at everything that's happening. And this functionality isn't just limited to the Apex version of Nebula Logger. You'll see the same information when you're building with Float too. Yeah.
We have this Nebula Logger, but it is I think unmanaged package, and we have the older version. We don't have this original source method.
Yeah, you got to upgrade. Yeah. So upgrade, and I think you'll get a lot of cool benefits. What aren't you able to see? Do you see this origin?
Yeah, we don't see this, yeah.
Do you see the transaction limits?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's some cool features. I don't know all the new things that they've released since your version, but probably cool to check it out. Okay.
And Saman, we have a question for you in the chat.
Yep.
From Anne. She's asking, are there data policies natively in the Nebula app, like purge or offload per policy?
There are, yeah. So with purging, you can configure that, and they have a scheduled job that you can enable and configure to have these logs automatically deleted if you like. Okay. So let me show off something else here too. Let me see where I was supposed to go. Okay. So another cool feature of Nebula Logger is that instead of just kind of blindly logging everything, you can start assuming to what's happening in your business. So you can have a little more of a ubiquitous language between your logs and the business capabilities that you're serving. So what I mean by that is, like, if you go to custom metadata, you'll see Nebula Logger has a couple custom metadatas for us. One of them that I'm going to talk about is this log entry tag rule. In here, if I create a new metadata record, I'm going to call this like credit score for finance. And what I want to tag is any logger object, any log object, where the message A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Guys, where's N? P, Q, R, S. Am I blind? Sorry, let me find what I'm looking for. My bad.
Logger entry or not?
And is it
I
only
want-
a logger as object log, or is it a level below?
Oh, yes. Thank you, guys. Yes, log entry. Thank you. Message. All right, thanks, you guys. Okay, so what I want to do is from that original error message, we saw this mention of credit score, which was here, credit score. So what I want to do is every time I see an error message that contains the word credit score, I want to tag that to my business capability, for example, or my business unit. So in this case, I'll just kind of tag it to the finance team since this is their domain. I'll go ahead and hit save. Cool. And now if I go back and I try to recreate the issue again, and I create Saman Corp 1, 2, 3. Let me check the logs. Cool. So I see the new log, and in here I should be able to see that tag. There it is, finance. And what's cool about this is if you have your business sectioned by these domains or these subdomains, you now have a central place to see all the logs for just that particular business unit. So if you support sales ops, revenue ops, finance, you can tag these different debugs to those different teams and let folks have one holistic view of all the issues happening just for their team. You no longer have this kind of muddied view of all the logs being in one spot. Any questions about this?
You still have to go into each like flow or apex and find the important things that you want to log.
Yes, you still need to do that. So it does require that kind of craftsmanship to go in and know what you want to log. But that's also kind of the good thing about it is you can be very prescriptive about what you care about and what you don't care about.
Well, but it's after you're surprised by something that somebody does that you weren't expecting. That's where it's not going to find those surprises. It's going to help you in the future.
Right. So like if this issue that I shared was like a real issue, I would of course help the user recover, but I would also need to go in and make a code fix. So while I make the code fix, I could go ahead and implement this logging to make sure this issue or a similar issue doesn't happen. And whenever I'm building net new functionality, I can think about how I want logging implemented. So yeah, you kind of can do some stuff proactively, or you can go back and like as tech debt, go ahead and add logging to critical functionality. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how much that helps from like an admin side. Is it going to help like find how many times are people screwing up and like the validation rule is catching up.
Right.
Makes them fix it.
Right.
So validation rule would have caused
Yes.
solve this
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
In the old school way kind of thing. So.
The question for those of you online was whether this could just like be blanket applied to your org. The answer is no. You need to kind of be prescriptive, go into your org, define the areas that you care about and want logging for, and kind of go about it that way.
Two comments on
Yep.
mine. So Sally said you can also add tags in Apex code at one at a time, and she put some code samples in there. And then Jade Leon asked, can you run a report on log tag finance? Maybe have a subscription report daily push to the responsible party.
Yeah, and that's actually, I'm so glad you asked, Jade. And before I do that, Sally, thank you for sharing the code snippet. So Jade, one of the best parts about Nebula Logger is that it is using those native S objects to have all this data hosted. It's not being sent to some other platform. So because it's an S object, you can report on it the way that you typically would with any other object. So here you'd report on the logger tag and look for any child objects like these tag logged entries that you care about. And from there, you can schedule reports, get them sent out, and go from there. Cool.
I have a
Yes.
question. Is it user specific or system specific? Like if I want to debug and a user come to me and say something is not working and it is throwing an error. So these logs are captured automatically, or do we need to specifically set for a user like a debugger?
It's totally configurable. So by default, it's for everyone. And I'm about to show you a way that you can kind of set it up per each user. So yeah, and you can turn it off and on depending on what you need. And then you can do that from a config way. And you can also, there's some classes on the logger object that you can add on to and customize it on the actual code level.
Is it available on App Exchange?
On the App Exchange, the managed package version is.
Is there some kind of maintenance for when the logs would be purged, or do you have to manage that yourself?
Yeah, they have a default automatic purge date. Basically, their solution for this is they have a scheduled job. So they stamp a purge date or some equivalent field on the log. And the scheduled job, you can configure that to go in and delete the records that you want on your purge date. Okay, so let me hop on over to the next feature that I'm going to demo. I think this is the second to last one. So under custom metadata again, there is another custom metadata record called logger scenario rule. If I manage that record and create a new record, let me just create a rule called, what do I want to call it? Like pre-sales finance. And the scenario, I'm going to call it credit worthiness. Hopefully I spelled that correctly. I'm going to leave all the other defaults blank here. I think this is the place. Cool. Yeah, I'm just going to hit save. So from here, what's cool about this that I'll show off is if you go to something like this account trigger handler, if I wanted to kind of log what was happening here before it happens, typically I would write system.debug, for example, right? But with the logger, if I just kind of take this snippet, have it here, I can tell the logger, hey, this instance, we're going to care about this scenario called credit worthiness, which is the same scenario I set up here in the metadata. And this is just, think of this like as a system.debug message. I'm just putting out a message and I'm saving that log. So if I hit deploy, and I go back and I try to create another issue here. Create my Simon Core 123. I should see another log entry. Cool, I do. Tied to that credit worthiness, which is great. But this is the cool part. Sometimes you want these feature flags, or sometimes you want these loggers to be on, sometimes you want them to be off. And this logger scenario rule gives you the ability to do that. So if I temporarily just want to turn off this log, I can actually go in and turn the logger off just via configuration. I don't need to do a code deployment. So when I do that, and again, I go back and try to create another bad record, this time, let me have this page ready. I only see these 4 records, and I should only continue to see the 4 records after this because I turned that debug functionality off. So let's see if that happens. Nice. Let me just double check. Cool. And I thought the setting for configuring users was here, but I guess it's somewhere else. Sally, do you know? I know you've used this plenty.
Sorry.
Out to you. Is there a place isn't there a spot in Nebula Logger that you can define the users that you want to create the logs for and ignore other users?
Yes, there is in. Let me. I have to open the organ. Okay with it. To.
No worries. We can get you an answer after the call. I thought it was here within the scenario.
Go and open Nebula Logger app, and there in the home page you should be able to see home.
Within like where?
So on the logs you can see that.
Here?
Click on the drop down.
Oh, got it.
Page home. So there you can set things. I think you have to add new and user. Here you can set up the user start time.
Oh, on the user. Okay. And this will only log it for that particular user, right? Okay, cool. All right, sweet. Thank you for that. Okay. Last thing I will highlight is if your orgs are fairly complicated, and most Salesforce orgs are, they're doing some sort of network request, making a HTTP call out, for example. So I wanted to show how Nebula Logger can help with that too. So here I have just an Apex class called account sync with one method in there, syncing an account record. It's setting some endpoints, setting the method header, et cetera, creating that HTTP request and sending out the request. Typically what some orgs would do is use system.debug to print out the status code, the body. Kind of tricky part with that is now you're always logging this, and there might be sensitive information in this that's going into your debug logs. What you can do with Nebula Logger is instead of taking this approach and printing out each one of those elements individually and dealing with the truncation in the debug logs, is you can use Nebula Logger's 2 methods, set HTTP request details and set HTTP response details. And once you do that, you just save the log. And let me deploy that up to the org as well. And I'm just going to run this with some asynchronous Apex. Cool. I think everything should have succeeded. Perfect. And now if I go back into my org and I go to my logs, should see that newest entry. Head on over to info. And again, I see the stack trace and where it's referenced. But what's cool is now I get this HTTP call out that I didn't get before. In here, I see all the data I could ever want about the request, the response, all neatly organized for me, in addition to everything I could see before, like my transaction limits and all that. So you can keep a pretty good eye on this. And when you combine this with those log entries, you can start reporting on specific integrations. When you combine it with the scenarios, you can turn off logging or turn it on for critical scenarios, or if you just want to debug in production without always having to debug in production. Yeah.
Sally had an answer for Omni Studio. Somebody was asking about Omni Studio support. So Sally responded, Omni Studio builders, the included Apex class callable logger provides access to Nebula Logger's core features directly in OmniScripts and Omni integration procedures. You simply use the callable logger class as a remote action within Omni Studio and provide any inputs needed for logging action. There's more details on their webpage, and she sent a link in GitHub to where she found it. I can share the link with you.
Perfect.
That's great.
Sally, this is why you're our favorite person.
Sally's the ball.
All right, so that is all I wanted to show off for the most part. There's a lot of other cool things that you can do. I mentioned those plugins. So if you have Slack or your organization, people have already kind of pre-built solutions that let you send those logs to Slack so you can get alerts. And I mentioned sensitive data in the HTTP callout. So I just want to highlight one other really cool thing under the custom metadata. There is a masking metadata rule. It already has some pre-configured, but it basically takes a regex approach to identify sensitive strings in your org and replaces those for you. So you're never at risk if you identify the sensitive regex correctly. You're never at risk of having sensitive data in those log files that could be accessible to folks like me, a developer who doesn't need to be seeing someone's credit card number. So lots of cool things. Yeah, that's most of what I wanted to talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
So I remember earlier you mentioned that this is useful for admins.
You grab the microphone. Don't drop it in the walk.
You mentioned that this is useful for admins and developers. As someone that is a developer light,
yeah,
a lot of the demo that you covered felt a little intensive for me. How is this, like, as someone that is more into low code and everything, has not played around so much in Apex class?
Great question. You're right. I prioritize the Apex. Do you want to see a flow example?
Yes.
We're going to build one live, baby. So thanks for asking. All right. Wish me luck, you guys. Okay. So I have this flow. It's called the account name flow. We're going to have it do something really dumb just for the sake of the demo. So what's important to know is that this is only going to work on your after save flows. It's not going to work on the before save, because on before save, you don't have actions. And you need the action element in order to do this, to do the Nebula logger debug. Just covering some bases, it's a flow trigger on account. It's firing whenever a record is updated. We don't care about the condition requirements. And I'm going to have a basic assignment here. It's just going to, every time an account gets updated, it's going to override the name to say my name instead. So what I can do to get this to work with Nebula Logger is go down to the actions. So let me click on it. There we go. Okay. And in here, I want the log action. Add log entry.
And this gets added when
you... Yeah, it's part of the package that gets installed. So in here, I will say just something generic like logging name update. I know we're always supposed to do descriptions, but I'm not going to type that out. Flow API name. How do I get the API name of a flow? Do you guys know in here? The running flow interview?
It is usually in the, if you go back to the flow, the main flow screen.
I know I can get it from that, but like, how do I reference it in here? Is it running flow interview? Can I type in text? Account name flow. That's like a new resource. Let's go. Okay. Log entry message. Let's put another message. Let's say. Like, I know how to put a message, but I'm wondering how I would pass in something interesting. Like, would I be able to pass in the name of a variable in here? Otherwise, I'll just do something like this. Flow fault error message, login level, record ID I can pass in.
Is the logging objects the same, where you could add your own custom fields?
Yeah. If you go with the unmanaged package route, the benefit there is if you want to customize it further, you can customize it further for yourself. I'm sure by default that is true, but I will mark it as true.
But in the managed, you can't.
Yeah, managed, it's locked, so you don't have access to. I mean, maybe you can customize the objects, but you can't customize any of the code that's setting those objects. All right. Whatever. Okay, let's hit save. Let's see if there's any errors. All right, we're gonna activate. So the only thing I don't know if we can do is like pass in a variable to this action. Like I am definitely able to put in like a generic message like I did in the Apex example, but it would be cool if I could also pass in a variable. I don't know if I could do that. Maybe I could with like, if I made a new variable here and I concatenated my message with a runtime value of the flow, but I have to go find out for sure. But let's go update the name of an account and see if it works.
Did you activate the flow?
Yes. Thank you for checking. I am just going to set the account number here, and let's see if it updates the name to just Saman. No. Attempt to dereference a null object. Account name flow. Not from me. I don't. Is it coming from here?
You probably need to get that 301 18 character.
You think so? I could try. But that's not like the record ID. That's just like the human readable account number. Let me try that. What else could it be? I don't think it's this. Oh, it's this. Only I had a logger for my logger. I'm gonna drop that too. Live demos, baby, the thrill. All right. Let's try again. I'm just gonna hit save. Bruh, no pointer exception.
You have to refresh because it's on.
No, because it's on the server.
Right. So is that the Apex class that you have running?
Oh, literally. I mean, it could be. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You got me. No, I don't think it would be from here.
So I would be throwing in the Apex.
We're just gonna have to do things the old-fashioned way. Let me do something else with prospect. You know what's interesting is I bet the log happened anyway, despite that. So let me open that up too and just check. Nope. No, not that one. Never mind. Okay. Let's see what the issue is.
Do you want to debug the flow, Simon, so we can see the error where it's happening?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. No. Oh, it's coming from there. Good thinking, Sally. Good thinking. But these are all, I got the required fields.
Can you put a text in that field, or do you have to create a variable?
In these?
In the log. In the log. Yeah. Always get Ricardo.
I think so. Once you have to create a log, then you have to assign like log entry to the log.
Like some of these fields, I get
Oh.
flow confused sometimes. You
But-
can't just type in stuff. You have to.
The record ID you can output the log record with the record ID.
And where would I do that? Like in which one of these fields? Because I thought this, unless I'm,
Record ID.
because it's only asking for the flow name. And this is the record ID of the flow record. Maybe I grabbed the wrong action. Let me see.
Can you make it like disable this?
Disable what?
Can you click on that one?
On this?
Yeah, and scroll down. So there is an included, right? You can make
Oh.
it exclude.
Oh, good call, good call, good call. Okay. I like it. I'm feeling good.
Turn off the save log.
I feel like it's true by default, but we'll find out. We'll find out. Thanks for keeping me honest. You guys ready? If this works, I'm having a margarita. All right. Let's go. Put it in, change the name. Guys, the flow's not on, is it? It is on. Let's check the logs. I didn't get a log generated either. That was for a different log scenario, so I should be okay. And I mean, it says it again. Account name flow, logging, optional. I'm gonna turn it on like you called out. Do a save log.
Were you able to register?
Pass that.
Yeah. Okay. What's the name? I'm just gonna.
Saran Raj.
Saran Raj. Okay. Thanks.
Save new version. Who thinks second time's the charm? I sure do. Bruh, do I have entry criteria? Record is updated, no requirements. Oh, this is a same record update, and I'm using assignment. It should still work, but I'll change it to this. Only Jonathan was here. You'd know. There we go. Okay. I have the assignment instead of the update record on the after save flow. Let's see if it created a log. Let's go. The misery is over. Okay, logging, that name is about to start. Yeah, and there's all the information that we logged from the flow. You can still see your org limits in here if you needed to, since those apply as well. Yeah. Sorry that wasn't super polished and ready to go with the flow version. I should have kept that in mind. I appreciate it.
The fact that it wasn't polished means that you weren't prepared for it, which worked out for me.
All right, sweet. Any other questions I can answer? Yeah.
Would it be a bad idea to use this to log, like almost, for lack of a better word, all your flows to figure out which ones aren't being used?
I wouldn't do that. And instead, I don't know if you saw it here, but they recently came out with a new feature on Flow. I don't know if it's part of a certain license that you need, like Data Cloud or something, but you're able to see the total runs here now. So what that means for me is, like if you have an entry or some condition here, you can kind of follow these numbers and see how often different branches in your flow are executing and kind of identify it from that perspective. But I wouldn't, I mean, you could use Nebula Logger, I guess. I mean, you could put a log on here, but it's hard to know what number to compare it to, I guess. You know?
Saman, we couldn't hear the question, please.
I'm about to type it in, Sally.
Sally, I made you a promise and I've broken it twice now.
It's
so
okay.
I'm sorry. Yes, the question was, can you use Nebula Logger to identify potentially like flows that are in your org but aren't executing that often. Is that correct, Summer?
Yeah.
And I said you definitely could, because you could put a log action at the beginning of every flow, log it, and come out and look to see how many times it's executing. But because of this new feature with flows, you can see the total runs for each element within your flow. And you can look at it from this perspective without needing to actually like push anything to prod or make any changes on your flow.
Yeah.
I've also seen like use cases where people create custom objects, and I tried this in my early days and it completely failed. And I haven't gone back to do it, but they've done it to where they said, okay, this flow saves 4 minutes every time it runs because somebody's not having to do that. And then they use that in their quarterly meetings to go, I saved.
Oh, save the company X amount of hours. Yeah.
Could you use this? Or is that not a use case for this?
I don't see how you could, but maybe I'm just not thinking creatively enough.
So are you're asking about tracking the runtime of a flow, how long it takes, or?
No, how much time it saves. Like if you say every time somebody used to take 4 minutes to do these keystrokes, you created a flow that now does it just automatically.
I don't
and
think
at the end of the quarter, you could say, I saved our department.
That is part of kind of a philosophy switch. I think for every flow, you should be building in a step and time logger so that if you update a flow and it makes that process take less time, that it doesn't matter how many bugs you create or how many you fix or how many story points. If you log that process that user X took 10 minutes to get through this process and you've tracked it, and then next month you say user X now on this new process, it took them 5 minutes. And so you've got 55 runs, 55 records of people running it at about 5 minutes. And then you can multiply that and say, with this number of users, I got this many people to this success rate. I think we should build that into our flows, not try and use logging.
But that's a custom object.
Yeah, custom object, custom log history.
For those online, the question was if Nebula Logger can be leveraged to help you identify how much time your automation is saving your business. And if you did want to use Nebula Logger for a similar use case or that use case, one feature it does have is it allows you to create these like transaction IDs and associate multiple log events together. So if you wanted to set one up on one flow and then also set up another log on an Apex transaction, you'd be able to kind of combine them and see end to end when a certain start time was and a certain end time was. And if you're only building a flow, I think you could probably use like the flow orchestrator since you're able to now organize those steps and kind of see it from that perspective too. But I probably myself wouldn't reach for Nebula Logger to solve that type of thing myself personally. Yeah.
We are using this, so I have one scenario, let's say I have a dependency component. I added one logger versus I added 20 loggers. So the performance of that dependency is impact, right?
Exactly. So the question for those online was, theoretically, I might have a Lightning Web component, and I might want to put one log statement on there, but I also might want to put 20 on there. And there's going to be a performance impact. And to that I say, yes, I mean, the tool is free, but the cost of it isn't free, right? There are, if you're logging on even with Apex, there's CPU time limit constraints. This is eating up data on your org. So these are the same limits that account for accounts, contacts, opportunities. It's eating up your limits there. And to your point, it's taking up more of the browser's runtime as well and potentially making the Lightning Web component feel slower to an end user. So always got to balance those trade-offs.
Is there
Any what?
any
Recommendation? We will get a question list for Jonathan and have him answer those, and get his perspective on it. But yeah, good question.
And also, can you help us to know the implementation of the backend, like how the?
Can you grab the mic before you? Yeah. Sorry, everybody online wants to hear.
Yeah, just I would like to know the flow of execution on the backend, like how does the insertions, or it's going to use platform events, or like how does it work?
Yeah, I'm sure on their GitHub page they have the nitty gritty. I haven't looked through all the source code myself to know for sure. But I'm sure between the docs they have, other folks that try to help people understand how Nebula Logger works. I mean, they have some architecture documents here, other quick starts. But yeah, I can't answer that for you, but I think this would be a good resource to dive in and see the code. Because did you say y'all have the managed package version or the unmanaged? Okay, I mean, you can always pop open, I guess, your own org and see.
So I faced an issue, like trying to say. So in one of logs, Nebula log is not working. It able to create the log record,
Yeah.
but not able to create the log entries. So I just went through the code and tried to see from the class and explore.
Yeah.
The log object is EML, the log entries are platform itself.
Yeah.
So they still would publish it.
Interesting.
So after that, like there's no way to track, like even when I check on the dashboard or reports,
Is that
is publishing, but I'm not able to see.
And the question for those on the call is if there's a way to look at the internal workings of Nebula Logger, understand the architecture of how it sends these events. And my answer was to, on the GitHub or other resources online, probably dive deeper. And then the follow-up question was, or kind of just sharing a scenario where in one of their orgs, Nebula Logger is creating log records, but not log entry records, and like the best way to kind of like deal with that. Is Nebula Logger the same version in that broken org as it is in the other orgs?
Yeah, it's pretty much same.
It's the same version, like exact same version?
Yeah, even I tried it because of maybe user, I tried to create a user and try to set the timestamp time and try to do that. The behavior is pretty much same.
And even if you go to like anonymous Apex and you do like the most basic log, it still doesn't log?
4 to 5 hours.
And you have the permissions assigned to you?
And that means
I mean, I think you could like log an issue here if you wanted with your version number, but I think the response you'll get back is to upgrade to the latest version of Nebula Logger, right? Because they don't want to support like these versions that they built maybe a year ago or something. But yeah.
So would you use this instead of sending like emails and things like that? Because I'm not a developer. I'm kind of I vibe code before it was cool.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm
well, Stack Overflow Pro.
Yeah, I'm more of a hacker, and
Okay,
I figure it
love
out. But if something breaks, I go figure it out. I put some conditions in there to either send myself an email or let me know or work around it, kind of a thing. So if you know this is a possibility, why wouldn't you just account for it? What's the purpose of the log?
Are you doing those emails and configurations in production or in your sandbox org?
Production.
In production.
Like I'm just talking about more fundamental developer logic. Like
I think it goes back to the point you made earlier about not wanting to be on the defense. So if you're building automations that you know are critical, that if they break for whatever reason, the business is going to be up in arms, it's a good opportunity to be proactive there, add that logging, so potentially you could be notified first instead of them. That's like one use case. And second one is if something breaks, you have all the information already available to you. You don't need to go and stop and go send out emails, get bits of information, but not others. You kind of get that whole holistic look.
Yeah, but you'd have to put it in each step that could possibly break. That's where
which is that similar to what you'd be doing with the emails anyway, or no, is that different?
Exactly, but I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
Until somebody does something that I did not expect.
Yeah.
Then I'm on the defense.
Yeah.
So this isn't going to help with that. You're on the defense the first time somebody does something, for lack of a better word,
right.
stupid.
So like
you don't know what
a developer analogy I could give you is, as a developer, when I'm like looking at code reviews or I'm writing my own code, one thing I'm always on the lookout for is defensive programming. So with defensive programming, I might read a variable, but that variable might be null. So one thing I want, the variable might be null, right? So I don't want to get a null pointer exception. I don't know if it actually is going to be null, but as a defensive programmer, I know to add a null check just in case something goes wrong. And it's not the exact same thing, but it's kind of that same thought process of being able to articulate what could potentially go wrong, and do I care enough to try to add extra complexity to that piece so I can have logging, so I can have observability. It's always a trade-off, you know?
So you definitely have to balance putting this log on.
Right, because if you put a log on everything, that's no different than having those giant debug logs, right? And having a bunch of noise that you have to sift through. So When you're surgical about it and can be precise about what you care about and don't care about, it can be helpful. Thanks for asking.
How many?
We're missing a good conversation over here. No,
I don't want to.
you want to bring it in?
Somebody else?
It's good passion. It's probably interesting.
Well, I'm from the product side, so a lot of this is interesting to me. It's also like the product side, not my area. But we all oftentimes from the. So I'm not from the product side, and this is interesting for me, particularly about being able to time the component or time the flow. A lot of times with new product solutions, we expect the business to give us the benefit or this business to give us the time savings. And usually they give us kind of a high level number. It's often not very meaningful. But I love the fact that we can run timing in production on the current state and already know the time spent, so that when we introduce a product enhancement or a new solution, I can run it again. And from the development side, I can say what the savings benefit was versus somebody else giving me some kind of gray number that might not really be the right number.
Yeah, the last 3 places I've worked, I've pitched this as people process logging. People, PPPL. So putting people back in your process. So I think as development teams, I've got my own, we should never solve a problem unless we are building in a way to see how well we solved it. If I don't improve the timeline, the time to complete, or the success rate, you shouldn't give me credit for having built a solution. I've got to build this. I can't build a solution that has SQL injection, hacking, data leak, bad permissions. I also shouldn't be able to build something that you can't tell if it's working or not. And a lot of times when the business asks me, it's like, okay, how are you going to do this for me, Paul? I'm saying, who's going to measure it? Who's going to be reading the reports? Who's going to verify that it's working? And if they say nobody, I say, yep, it's done. If you don't care that it runs or not, I don't care if it's developed. So what does it matter? If there's some value of doing code, you should be reaping it and monitoring from it. And we should do that from the start. You shouldn't have to ask for stuff like this to be added. Everything you should build should be dropping logs. This person on this process flow got to this step, log. This person on that same process, same person got to this next step, log. And then you should be able to accumulate those together and say, I improved this overall process by 10% more completion rates or 50% less execution time overall. That's what you should incentivize your development teams on, not story points.
I see 2 non-development benefits. Is the one about being able to log the time in production and log the time again with a new solution is that often clients are paying for projects. When they pay for a project and we reap a benefit, that reduced benefit comes out of their budget. They don't get it the next year. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times the provided benefit is like a lowballed benefit. It's not the actual benefit. So we could use this to provide the actual benefit. But also I see like new product solutions. We introduce a lot of new product solutions on intervals and releases. And they might start with a small pilot group with a flag or permission. And we don't get a lot of feedback. We don't understand like the defects or the bugs. And to be able to use something like this in maybe more of a proactive way, we might be able to monitor some of that activity and find it. We sometimes go through pilots and scale and don't see any feedback, don't see any defects. And then all of a sudden they scale to 30,000 people. Now we've uncovered 30 things all of a sudden, right? So I could see this having value in that space too.
Half of that argument is if you tell me that I'm writing code and I'm getting punished for defects, I'm going to write super safe code. I'm going to deploy one thing at a time, make sure it works perfect, but I'm not going to go out and try and solve your problem. I'm going to try and keep my name off the Hall of Shame list or the naughty list. I'm going to take 10 times as much time to deliver that code than it's probably worth. If you reward and incentivize on accelerated productivity or for the business or success, changes the game. Now I'm trying to solve problems faster. And is the risk worth the reward? Did I write 50% bugs, but I saved the company 50,000 hours? Yeah, bugs fall off the radar then. And you would start to train people to to think proactive activity and success metrics versus failure metrics and only error catching. So sorry, that's my Agile is fragile soapbox. I get on it every once in a while. You had a question? Yeah.
So now since we're in the era of Agentforce everything, is there a connection with Nebula Logger and Agentforce agents?
The logging for Agentforce is in a different system. You have to go there. So if you're integrating with Agentforce, you can see when it leaves the system by whatever call. But if you're talking to Agentforce directly, all of that is happening off server, ChatGPT, wherever it is that it's doing the compute. So you don't have any access to it until your promise is answered, the data comes back or anything like that. So it's a bit of a black box right now. They don't have a pipeline for the logging.
Yeah,
for
I was just curious
Agentforce.
because
That's a good question.
everything, right?
Like it has objects in Salesforce, but Agentforce should be able to access to those objects, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can like build an agent to.
You have to put that in there. There's just not an automatic that Agentforce is generating logs when it's a logic engine, all of the stuff when the agent script.
Do you mean Agentforce creating logs or reading the logs in general? Oh, I was looking.
I mean, it could help you like analyze them for sure. Like you could build a flow to go grab the log records created that day and ask Agentforce to give you a summary, or alert you if certain log conditions are met, like that type of thing. I know we got Sally in the chat, so I'm sure she's got other good ideas about Agentforce.
Yeah, that's what, like, if possible, you can integrate, because we generate thousands or maybe lakhs of logs every day.
Right.
And we can see a pattern of what's happening every day. And people are, we do see not only Salesforce kind of errors, there are AP errors.
Yeah.
There are, a lot of errors comes, and we can do a pattern and say, is there a way you can integrate with any of the LLM, just not Agentforce? Yeah, maybe it's costly, yeah, but any of the LLM that's owned to the particular org, and they can feed and somebody can maintain them, so that they get a pattern that they report it and fix it immediately. Because
good point.
Not every error is being taken care. Like there's the priority ones are taken care of immediately.
Yeah.
But there are chances that you can find a pattern, and so I think these can be exported, right?
They can be exported, and better yet, they're based on events. So you can, if you have a subscriber
But
out in AWS,
is there a way
or
you
something,
can feed them to an LLM?
Can you feed them to an LLM?
LLM?
I mean, I'm sure, yeah, you build a server that queries these records.
But I don't know what we have, but yeah. Elk is doing that. Okay. So Elk, I think there's a separate team monitoring.
And Samantha, can I add something?
Yeah, of course.
Also, like it's a good thing they have on the homepage the dashboard where like you can see reporting. Like they have out of the box reports for us to see, so you can see between error, info, warning, the type of logs you will have. You'll have here in the dashboard like. This org maybe doesn't have a lot or tons, like you can see errors only, but like you can see between errors and info and warning if you have, and you can like choose one of the types and you can see the reports that just show you the warning versus the errors. And the tags help as well because you can tag like related logic, like for example, if you have a flow versus LWC versus Apex, all related to, for example, code creation. You can have a tag for code creation and you can see the logs related to all of the errors or the info or the debug logs you're adding related to code creation. So that's a good thing. And based on my experience while using Nebula in a project, one of the benefits as well is if you're working on a big team where you have a lot of automation between Apex and flows, and sometimes like you can hit some governor limits or we exceeded the number of circles and you don't know, sometimes you can get into a rabbit hole figuring out what caused this issue. having the logs between the flows and the Apex helps a lot because you can see after each step where the limit were, like what was the main reason we hit it? Like, was it the trigger or the flow? And it helps you figure out the issue and solve it as well. And if we are talking about LLM, one of the ways as well, you can use Agentforce Vibes. It will have access. You can query the records and ask Agentforce Vibes maybe to figure out the pattern or help you solve the issue. So you can use the data you have with Agentforce Vibes and solve the issues as well you are facing.
Thank you, Sally.
You're welcome.
When you were in the flow, I don't know if I saw that right, but was there multiple selections for log steps, or was it just the one?
I think it was just the one. I mean, you can always create more actions, but this guy you're talking about?
Yeah, when you click on the plus, I saw a bunch of. No, on the plus.
Oh, sorry.
Add a new action. I thought I saw a bunch of logs.
Some of these are not from the package.
Which one was the one you were using?
It was.
Logging.
Where is it?
Okay, you only have one.
Comes up with this one, I think. No, you can have multiple.
Yeah, that's going to change.
That's logging. Well, it's an APEC.
So when we go to agent,
That's just what it called. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Agent Force is creating
I said that.
response, right? So there's, how can you fit that?
Yeah.
Okay, I just saw a bunch of logs.
No, you're good.
How you can control it, you show.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for asking. Any other questions? Any thoughts? Anyone motivated to go implement Nebula Logger at work or upgrade it? Get some of the new benefits?
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate you guys bearing with me through the frogs and everything. All right, that's all I had. Thanks, you guys.
What's your best practices on
Mess around with it in a dev org, you know? Yeah, do it
Get the mic back
incrementally.
for him.
Like any new technology that you bring on, get yourself up to speed with it. So mess around in a dev org just for yourself, and then start incrementally adding it, right? You might have a production issue and be like, oh, this might be a good use case. So start folding it in. Yeah, incremental approaches are always my preferred. All right, and thanks for everyone that joined online. Appreciate y'all coming out.
Did you guys get enough, or do you want a deeper dive in this in the same topic? Like I said, I think we're still going to try and get the product owner from Salesforce that owns this product that can tell us more about it. Is this enough, or do you want to know more deeper? Yeah, go play with it, and then come back with questions, and we'll get him in a couple months then. Cool. He apparently visits Dallas fairly regularly, so we'll get him again.
You can also write in something that's related to Omni Studio, just in case that would be helpful as well.
Say what again?
Omni Studio.
What about it?
Like, just to show a use case how it works on Omni Studio.
Oh, okay. Okay. The Nebula Logger on Omni Studio? Okay. Yeah, I mean, all of this is generated from API calls. So pretty much anything that you write code against, you can write Nebula Logger in. So
Omni-channel flows, I'm sure you could add that as an action.
So maybe you should write that. Tell us which Omni Studio component do you have that you wish you had logging, and we can attack that one night.
Online call. Thank you guys again so much for coming. Hope to see y'all soon.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
And Sally,
thank you, Simon
thank
and
you,
Sally.
as always, for being a rock star.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
Sally. Bye.
Bye.